Badla was a practice that evolved because the settlements were paper based, because there was complete aversion to financing anything against shares. Because you never knew whether that piece of paper that is being given as a security, is it worth even that piece of paper or not. Forget about it being a share certificate. So in a sense, the system was to blame as to why Badla evolved over a period of time. And the third element in Badla was that it allowed you to take future positions. And futures and options were officially banned in the market. They were banned by law. So SEBI had to operate on different fronts. How to make your settlement process better, how to make sure that investors get good delivery, and enable futures and options market. So plead with the government to amend the law so that the futures and options markets are allowed. So what the SEBI Act said was that there will be a SEBI fund, and SEBI is allowed to charge fees from intermediaries, which would come to that fund. What Mr. Ramakrishna figured out was that the average brokerage at that time was about 2.5%. So he says if out of that 2.5%, 1 paisa, so out of 2.5 rupees, if 1 paisa SEBI can charge as a fee, it won't be an extra burden on the market, and at the same time, it will give enough income to the SEBI to sustain itself. This created big commotion in the market. And people said that this is all not done, and SEBI was taken to different high courts because we had 23 exchanges around the country. I think it took a little bit of time, but we were able to convince the Supreme Court that they need to consolidate these cases and come up with one order on this. Fortunately, the Supreme Court got convinced, and then finally the order that the Supreme Court gave was in favor of SEBI. I think there was a fundamental imbalance in the market that if you sold your shares, you parted with the shares, you got your money. So the transaction was complete as far as you were concerned. But if you bought your shares, you parted with your money, but the shares that came to you, their title was uncertain. Something may turn into bad delivery, something may be totally fake shares, and so on. So the market was functioning on the basis of one side getting the full benefit of the transaction and one side being uncertain. And you needed to restore that balance. In terms of lawmakers, I think government deserves full credit for getting the depository legislation through in the form in which it was needed. You know, with all legislation, including SEBI's own legislation, there is always that issue of it being the art of the possible. You never get the ideal in the first place itself, but you have to learn to live with what you got and then go on to say that now I have proved what can be done with this much. Can we have a little more? We didn't have a lot of money at that time, there was not a lot of income. So we consciously avoided going into any advertisement drive. And we said that what we need is a connect with the investors. And we literally used to conduct 100 seminars a year for investors all over the country. In fact, in '92 there were some issues which had been pending for a period of 200 days after the money had been collected from investors, but issue not listed for some reason or the other.
6-7 months.
And this was untenable. I mean, 6-7 months was not the rule, but 90 days is what the rule required.
Which itself is very unfair.
Which itself is very high. So I knew that, and in the meantime, the corporates would enjoy the float. So we were quite clear that you need to get at the root of this float and eliminate it. And ASBA was the answer to that, because by the time I came to SEBI second time, the bank computerization had happened on a large scale, which is what helped in introducing ASBA. that you could block the amount in the investor's account and take only that much money for which you were issuing shares. The float that the corporates enjoyed created very perverse incentives in the market. So a lot of those practices automatically got eliminated. So what the global financial crisis did not do in India's markets is that we were not directly affected. So none of our banks had a run on them, or none of our companies went under, nothing happened. But the New York market and the London market, the money markets there, froze. So Indian companies which had raised money in those markets could not renew their loans, and some of them had raised short-term money. So those money terms came to an end, and they made those demands on the Indian market, which didn't have sufficient liquidity. So RBI induced liquidity at that time in the market, and we can say we were partly responsible in persuading RBI to do this. Liquidity was generally short. So we had to request RBI for a special limit, line of credit for mutual funds. Fortunately, that was provided, and we
tided over
the crisis.
But I think they made banks give you the credit.
Yeah, so what they did was they did not deviate from their basic principle, but the banks were told that this additional liquidity is available only if you lend to mutual funds.
On lend. Okay, so that saved the day.
So I also got an email. And I come to office in the morning, open my mailbox and look at emails. There is one email from a person who had never emailed me, that is Mr. Raju. And that email says that the 5,000 crores that I have shown in my balance sheet don't exist. Now, this is terrible and shocking. But the more fundamental question before me was, I don't know whether this email has really been sent by Raju or it is just a spam hoax. So we had to tell the stock exchanges that first verify with the compliance officer of this company whether really Raju has sent this mail or it is some nonsense. Anyway, after some amount of effort, that was verified. It was indeed a mail from Raju. We needed to know whether Satyam as a company has substance in it, or is it just a Khoka company?
Is it entirely Farzi, entirely a Ponzi scheme?
So while we know that Raju himself has confessed that there is some wrongdoing, the point is what is the company's operation like? And we found that they had very satisfied clients, they had excellent staff. So clearly the company needed to be saved. And the government played a big role there. The case was taken to the
CLB, right?
The
Company Law Board?
Company Law Board. And Company Law Board gave an order saying that government will appoint the directors. The old board of directors was told to go out. And government appointed such eminent people on that board. The other big thing that happened because of Satyam was that Indian market got a bad name. And people started saying that no company's accounts can be trusted. We don't know. If Satyam can give 5,000 crores wrong information, maybe other companies also have a problem. So there with the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, and I must specifically mention Mr. Malegam, we requested them to come over and we had a meeting, and we came to the conclusion that we now need to appoint independent auditors over and above whoever the statutory auditors of the companies were, and get them to verify the accounts of all the companies to see whether the cash balance as reflected in their annual numbers were right. We said from SEBI that we will pay for this audit so that there is no conflict of interest involved. And amazingly, in about 15 days' time, we got reports from all these auditors that the accounts were fine. And that created complete peace and quiet in the market. I think all of the finance ministers, by and large, were supportive of the reforms. So this whole idea that politics and regulation or politics and administration are at loggerheads, I don't agree with it at all.